Welcome to the Land Your Bet Sports Betting Show. Monday Night Football, Week 11 here in the battle for Texas. We got the Cowboys playing host to these Texans. The Cowboys are struggling, so I'm going to be looking at my best bets and play prop projections that I've got for this game here. A few bets already laid down. Definitely want to check those out. Quick look at Sunday. Feeling really good about how we did here in the NFL. You can see 4-3, up nearly 2 units in the NFL on Sunday there. Really mostly proud of those Jawan Jennings touchdown, that Nick Westbrook-Akine touchdown as well. Got us 5-1. So we hit the dart throw. Kirk Cousins went under and feeling really good about the other picks. Just missed on the DeAndre Swift under because he had a 40-yard rush. Other than that, we were golden. So we're going to keep it rolling here, man. If you don't want to miss anything, go ahead and give that video a like. Let's get right into it. Quick reminder, if you don't want to miss any of the plays that I'm making, use the link in the description of the video to get yourself over to wap.com. That'll enter you into the VIP Discord so you don't miss any of the plays that I'm making. If you do want the NBA season pass, you can get that 40% off. Go ahead and skip that monthly price and get right into all the NBA plays we've got this year. But we're talking NFL, so let's get right into Monday Night Football and that Texans offense, which is going to be better moving forward. There's no way around it. They are 15th in passing yards and 18th in pass EPA, in part because they're not really getting that much. They're not limiting pressure, I should say, on CJ Stroud. They are 31st in pressure percentage, so second worst, not giving him enough time. But you know what really solves a lot of those problems is going to be having the best receiver in the league, at least according to receiving yards per game, in Nico Collins. And he's back. That's going to fix a lot of the stuff here for this Texans offense, which has been starving for wide receivers after Stephon Diggs went down right after Nico Collins went down. So they've been starving for the wide receiver at the wide receiver position. And now they're getting a guy back who's going to make that offensive line look a lot better. If they can even give him a few seconds, Nico Collins is going to beat those guys downfield. Really good reception, yards per reception, I should say. That's really going to help CJ Stroud open up the rest of the field. And although the rushing yards are not great and the rush EPA is even worse in terms of third worst in the league, they've still been running the ball so well with Joe Mixon, or at least so often, that they're just forcing the ball down the other team's throat. And Dallas is basically the worst. Maybe we'll give them second worst rush defense in the league. That's partly because they have the 23rd ranked adjusted yards before carry, so they're not getting any push and touching that running back before he's already past the line of scrimmage. That's for sure. The pressure percentage, it's great. Second in pressure percentage on the season, just hasn't really led to much in the way of either takeaways or the ability to really limit passing yards on the season. And those passing yards against them would be way higher. You can see they have the 5th worst pass EPA, but they're in the top 10, or however you want to look at it, bottom 10, in terms of the amount of time that they are losing this season, right? So they're trailing for the about 8th most time in each game that they play on the seasons. It's a big part why other teams are running the ball on them, don't really have to pass it. So we're going to be looking at some rush stuff here for the Texans for sure, but I think there's still going to be plenty of passing yards for them. One more quick reminder, got the live show every single day, 5:30 p.m. Eastern. You guys bring your bets, jump in the comments, and we go over all the looks that we have for that night. Tomorrow, we're doing NBA again, but also got the Monday Night Football up, so we'll be looking at some NFL props if you guys want to bring those. Let's look at this Cowboys offense with Cooper Rush at the helm now. And those 10th in passing yards, that number right there, it's really due to how often they're losing, right? They're losing most of the time this season, as I mentioned, so they need to pass the ball. But that pass EPA is still 4th worst in the league, and they're not limiting pressure percentage on their quarterback at all. Dak was doing okay, able to get out of the pocket. Cooper Rush is running for his life at this point. We saw him throw for 45 yards last week, had a sub 50% completion percentage on passes that he was hurried, which is going to be the case once again, I would imagine, with this Texans defense. Don't even really care about the rush offense for this Cowboys team. Terrible in terms of adjusted yards before contact, bottom 10 in the league. They're not even really able to rush the ball very much because they're losing. They don't have a running back unless you consider Rico Dowdle a starter, but I don't think most teams in the NFL would consider him a lead back. You've got the ghost of Zeke Elliott. It's all bad, right? The offensive line's bad. So it's going to continue to be a problem for them, and that's going to lead to the inability to throw the ball because the Texans don't really need to worry about not pinning their ears back and going after the quarterback. They're 4th in passing yards and 8th in pass EPA on defense, in part because they have that 4th highest pressure percentage in the league. And they're going to continue to force the ball out of Cooper Rush's hands probably before he's willing to get rid of it. The rush defense is incredible. I will say that. 9th in rushing yards, 14th in rush EPA, but they are getting a ton of push up front. They're in the top 5 in adjusted yards before contact. This defensive line is an absolute problem, and it's going to wreak havoc in both areas of the football for the Cowboys here on Monday night. But let's kick it off with the Texans play of props and get into CJ Stroud. Some of you are saying you want me to put down exactly what the play is on the screen. Ain't going to happen. Just give it a listen. So if you're listening right now, you know that I like the fade of the interception, and I'm going under half an interception for CJ Stroud. If you're only watching it and skipping through, you probably don't know what I'm doing here, and you're going to have to figure it out for yourself. But this is a great price for a QB who is incredibly accurate, especially when he has Nico Collins. And that's what made me so excited to make this play, was Nico Collins is back. This team doesn't really need to throw the ball very much anyway. So I don't know why CJ Stroud would be forcing it into tight windows when they can probably get whatever they want on the ground. With Nico out there, no interceptions in 15 of the 19 games that he's played since he came into the league with Nico Collins. So this duo leads to a lot of efficient plays for CJ Stroud. Dallas only has one INT in its last 5 games on the season and only has 4 games of its 9 played with an interception. One of those, they got 3 of them. This ain't that game, right? This is going to be a game where CJ Stroud is going up against a team that is playing mostly zone. Most teams in the NFL play the majority of their plays as zone, but the Cowboys are in the top 13 in terms of the amount of man coverage that they're running on defense. CJ Stroud is one of the best quarterbacks against man coverage, 3rd best in terms of his accuracy against man coverage. So any man coverage is going to lead to even more success for CJ. But even in these zones, there's no reason for him to force the ball into tight windows right now. He's got his best play receiver back. This offense is going to be humming in the run game against an awful Dallas rush defense. So I just don't see another INT for CJ in this one. Joe Mixon. So as I was saying earlier, Joe Mixon's running the ball like 22 times per game. He's had like 25 rush attempts, 4 of his last 5, I believe now. And he's going up against the worst rush defense in the league. His numbers at 85.5 rush yards shouldn't really scare too many of us, to be honest. The only thing that would scare me is that he doesn't get to it before he doesn't really need to play anymore, because they could still play other guys in the backfield once they're up by 3 to 4 scores, which is where I would probably guess they're going to be by like the 3rd quarter of this one. Still, I think the longest rush is the play for him. He's gotten over 16 plus rushing yards on one play, I should say, as his longest rush in 5 of 7 games this season. And Dallas has allowed at least one rush of 16 plus yards in its last 5 games. One of those last games specifically was not a running back. It was Jalen Hurts. But CJ Stroud ain't really looking to run. They're just going to keep giving the ball here to Joe Mixon until this game is just completely out of reach. And when we get into that positive game script, it's only going to equal more opportunities for him. So I think this run percentage for this team is going to remain pretty high. So it's going to give him a lot of chances to get 16 plus yards. And I think that's going to be pretty doable for him at some point in this game. Man, I want to bet on Nico Collins in this game. I want to take his overs. I want to ladder it. I wanted to give him a touchdown. I just also want to proceed with a little bit of caution. I know these numbers look good. He's over the receiving yards number for him in this game. He's over in all 5 this year, 113 yards per game. 2nd in the NFL in yards per route run, top 10 in terms of yards per completion and catch that he's getting there, 17.7. I just don't know if he's going to be needed in this game. I think one potential angle is you might consider the first half stuff for Nico Collins, maybe even first quarter, get him involved right away, remind everybody that this is a top 5 receiver in the NFL who leads the league in yards per game. But that said, why would you really need him in the second half? If he's coming back from injury as well, I'd rather just make sure he leaves this game completely healthy, and that everybody does, because we've seen how much this pass game has suffered without at least one of its top wide receivers, considering Stephon Diggs ain't coming back. And Nico Collins, they're going to need him if they're making a legit run towards the Super Bowl. So they're going to do everything they can to make sure he's healthy, which means I don't know that he's going to be out there for 100% of the route participation, that kind of stuff. I haven't really gotten an inkling in that, but if he's out there for even like 85% of those passing plays, I still think he's probably good for over 70 yards receiving. Got a fun one for you now, because this Houston D and special teams touchdown is at about 7-1. And I think it's time to buck the trend, because I just can't believe that when I was looking at this play, I always like looking at Houston defense plays since D'Amico Ryans got there. But like, Dallas hasn't allowed a non-offensive TD this season. Houston hasn't scored a non-offensive TD this season. Yet Dallas has the 2nd most giveaways on offense, and Houston has the 5th most takeaways on offense. So something's got to give at some point. Like, Dallas can't go this whole season without giving up a defensive touchdown, and Houston can't go this season without getting a defensive or special teams touchdown. I'm going to take them in this game with a little dart throw here, about 2.2 units for them to get a tutty via a non-offensive play. Looking at the boys here, I know I normally start with the quarterbacks, but this is my favorite play. I love fading Rico Dowdle in this one, whether you want the yards or the attempts. The attempts I love at under 13.5. We had a really nice edge with that number. He's only hit 13 rushing attempts once this season. It was when he got 20 against the Steelers, which was not a negative game script like I fully expect this game to be. That one was a lot more neutral, and it was a weird game that he even got it. It's down to 12.5 rush attempts, I believe, because that number was totally wrong. But I still think 12.5 is probably wrong in a game that I feel more confident than I've probably felt at any point in this season for the boys, that they were going to be losing early in this one, and that they're going to be losing going into the second half, and they're not going to really need or have the ability to run the ball or the luxury, whatever you want to call it, with a negative game script. Plus, even if he is running the ball well, I don't know how this offensive line is able to open any holes for him when they're in the bottom 8 in terms of their adjusted yards before contact, and the Texans are 5th in adjusted yards before contact on defense, meaning their defensive line is living in the backfield against its opponents. So the other thing here is Zeke's always lurking. I mean, I don't expect Zeke to get more than 6 to 7 carries in this game, but I don't know if I expect this team to run the ball 20, 25 times in this game. They just don't have it in them. The offensive line doesn't have it in it to get any push, and they're probably going to be losing. So this is a really nice fade of the running back here for the boys. I also really want to fade Cooper Rush. It's just, I think the back door is probably going to be open. I mean, they're going to be passing the whole time if they're down early and often, like I think they will be. And he's coming off 45 passing yards last week. And now it's at about 185 yards on the prop. It's so hard for me to fade an NFL quarterback, but I will tell you right now that I would not take your money and put it on an over for Cooper Rush. I'll say that. He's going to be under pressure, and he has not been good under pressure. He doesn't have much to work with when he's under pressure. He doesn't really have the short yardage guys at his disposal. Maybe Rico Dowdle receiving is a look here because of how often he's going to be under pressure. But he was so inaccurate last week when he had a sub 50% completion percentage in the plays that he was under pressure. And like I said, we've got the 4th best defense in creating pressure percentage on the quarterback, 3rd best in pass defensive DVOA for the Texans. It's just, there's nothing to like about this Cooper Rush stuff for this game. It's just, if he's throwing the ball 45 times, that's going to make me a little bit nervous that he's not going to be able to get 185 passing yards in that situation. Probably goes without saying that I ain't going to be back in CeeDee Lamb in this one, and would actually love to fade him as well. Same concept though. Backdoor cover kind of scares me. Might be able to see them just sort of get those. I mean, look, they're 17th in passing yards despite having an awful pass percentage on their team, and really an awful yards per completion for both Cooper Rush and even when Dak was in there. Just awful. So the only reason they're even 17th in passing yards and not worse is because they have to throw 35 to 45 times in a game, and CeeDee Lamb's going to be the top target. He might give up though at some point. I mean, the vibes are so low. I don't know why he'd keep going as hard as he could. And if we see Cooper Rush under duress, then CeeDee Lamb's going to be running a lot of long routes without even seeing a target or enough targets to keep him happy, which means why would he keep going, right? We saw him basically give up last week, especially because the Eagles were able to bracket the crap out of him, and now the Texans are too. Like, there's no one that you're really scared of. Jalen Tolbert ain't it. I think we can go ahead and put that to bed, that he might be a solid second wide receiver for this squad. And Ferguson, yeah, I guess he'll be a little bit more likely to get targets if he's not running as long a routes as CeeDee Lamb is, because he is running really long routes for CeeDee. It's just like, I don't trust anybody to catch balls against this Texans defense, which has an incredible pass defense. So I'm not going to fade CeeDee because of the backdoor opportunities. There's better ways to spend my money, but I certainly ain't going to be going over on them. One last reminder, outlier.bet, best tool around to make sure that you're getting the best value on all the plays that you're putting out there. I use that on the live show, which I hope to see you at on Monday, 5:30 p.m. Eastern. So if you do want to learn a little bit more about it, you can go ahead and check out the description of the video. Got the link to a 7-day free trial due to my partnership with Outlier. So nothing for benefiting me here. Just if you want 7 free days of Outlier, go ahead and use the link that's in the description of the video. I hope to see you guys at the live show at 5:30 p.m. Eastern. And until I do, happy betting.